All right, fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And we're here back with a new episode of the 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞 podcast. And in this one here, I'm just going to be giving my thoughts and opinions on different stuff. We're going to be talking about Wonder Woman, FarCry 5 controversy that's been going around. Also, we're going to talk about some upcoming, things from E3 coming out of Microsoft. And I'm just going to round things off with my, thoughts about Microsoft and how they need to, hit E3 with the ball running, so to speak. But anyways, let me get Wonder Woman right out the gate. I'm a huge comic book fan. I mean, if you guys listen to any other of my commentary videos, that's one of the main things I talk about. And I don't have a lot of love for Warner Brothers and DC Comics. Well, not DC Comics as a company, but how they make their movies with Warner Brothers, because it's all Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers owns everything. And I'm not a fan. I hated Batman v Superman. I like certain things in it, but mostly I 90% hated that movie. Suicide Squad was a good try at whatever they were trying to do. I hated the Joker in that movie, but as a movie, I think it was kind of cut up a little bit too much, so I wasn't really a fan of that. Man of Steel, I thought was okay. It put like a realistic spin on Superman and his fight, so I was a fan of that. I didn't overly love it, but I was a fan of it, more so than the other ones. So when it came to Wonder Woman, I made a few videos talking about it before, early this year, last year, things like that. I knew it was going to make money because this is Wonder Woman, My only goal was not to know if it was going to flop because I knew it was going to sell, but I just wanted to hope they didn't shit on the character, because WB don't know what the fuck they doing when it comes to characterization, their comic book characters. With Superman, they have the whole Jesus imagery and him being divided with his loyalties, and he doesn't act the way he's supposed to do, or supposed to be rather. And then you have Batman out here just mass murdering everybody, not being the way he's supposed to do. And not do, but be. We talk like I actually got some sense here. Trying to collect my thoughts here. But Batman's not being who he's supposed to be. And I don't mind them changing the characters. I really don't. I mean, this is a whole separate medium from the comic book, so I'm not going in. If they want to do their own thing, that's fine. I have no problems doing that. My problem is with their movies is they don't like to set shit up. They just like to come out to the table like Batman. Oh, he's violent Batman for no reason. And they never really go in depth as far as what that reason is. You have a lot of assumptions, but they never really explain how he got from, oh, I don't kill nobody to just, fuck it, I don't care if I kill people. And I think that's a problem. That's a break in the characterization, especially when every other form of Batman media, besides like the really old comics, from like the 50s and the 40s and shit, where he would just kill people. But for the most part, in the movies, I guess you could say they're hit and miss because it's a movie, so they have to show him defeating people. And yeah, you could say, oh, certain people died, but in reality, his character, he doesn't kill people. That's just his thing. And then you also have him using guns, which I didn't like in that movie. So it's like they get a lot of things wrong with their movies. With Wonder Woman, I went into it and I was like, okay, I know it's going to make money. I know women are going to probably flock in droves to see it because this is Wonder Woman, and this is their first big screen attempt at a Wonder Woman movie. And I was just expecting to be like, all right, if this movie, I knew it was going to make money, but I didn't know if it was going to be shitty. And I went into it and I saw it last weekend, and it was okay. I mean, I was expecting to rip WB a new asshole, but I can't. The movie was decent, YouTube. I mean, it's not the best of the best. It does have a few problems here and there that, that I saw, but for the most part, the movie was solid. You had a good, good intro backstory, explained where she came from. Bright colors and stuff that they've just, never do in none of their fucking movies. It was nice and colorful. Then it jumped to the World War II stuff, and you had a lot of dark imagery, grays, dark scenes, things like that. But that's World War II. That's kind of like, you know, to be expected. So I didn't mind it as much. The character was done, for the most part, right. You know, that's the modern Wonder Woman story setting, what have you. They changed the time periods around, but outside of that, her leaving Themyscira, joining man's world, you know, doing all that. I think the journey from her being, I'm not going to say young and naive, but being on Themyscira and then jumping to, oh, we got to save the world and I'm all for, you know, saving the mankind. I think that was kind of quick. There was no progression in there. It was just kind of like, leave the island. Okay, now I'm Wonder Woman. It's like, oh, hold up, you know, but I can understand why they did that. A lot of times with comic book movies, you have to get the origin story out there. If you don't, that's going to eat up like half of your movie right then and there. So that's why it didn't feel rushed when I watched it. Maybe because that's, you know, I already know the story, but so it didn't feel like they rushed it or that they cut parts out, you know. It's just, to me, it felt kind of natural. The progression from her leaving to just saving the world was kind of quick. I wish they'd dove into a lot of the other stuff that Wonder Woman has to deal with. Like, they didn't really explain her weapons and gear and what makes her powerful. I wish that they'd have dived into, they just said, oh, these are the weapons of the gods that they gave us just in case Ares came back. They kind of focused everything in on, oh, Ares being the bad guy. Ares killed all the other gods. That's a one quirk that made no sense to me. How can you have Ares, the god of war, right? If any of you know anything about Greek mythology, Ares was the god of war. You have Zeus in every book, comic, telling of the Greek pantheon. Even Hercules, the fucking TV show with Kevin Sorbo, right? You have fucking Ares, right? Zeus is always like the biggest and baddest god out there. That's established across damn near all medium. How can you tell me that Ares, just Ares by himself, now granted, Ares is a beast. We all know this. But he is nowhere near as strong to take out all of the other gods and Zeus by himself. Not happening. Had a huge problem with that. But they gotta tell some kind of story. You have to build up your bad guy. I just wish they'd have did that a little bit differently, because now, according to your movie verse, the other gods don't exist. That's a huge problem, because at least for Wonder Woman in the comic books, she deals with all of that godly stuff. The gods are the ones who gave her her abilities. You know, it's not just like, oh, she's the son of Zeus and therefore she can do all of this crazy shit. No, that's not how the character is. So I had a huge problem when it came to that aspect of it. In the comics, I'm not saying you got to be just like the comic books. I'm not jumping down that point, but that's the reason why she has all of those extra abilities. Let's say like flight, super strength. Well, she probably gets that, you know, by being, you know, a demigod and everything. But a little bit of her extra abilities like flight and things like that, she didn't get that from Zeus. She got that from the other gods and the weapons and armor and stuff that she has. So I wish that they'd have kind of left it open. I don't wish that they, you know, just stopped it at Ares being the only one left, because then it's like, okay, well, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? You're cutting off future stories by doing it like that. And you can't just say Ares killed all the gods and then, let's say, like a movie later, bring them all back. Can't do that. So I think that they should have told that a little bit differently. I wish that they'd have just said, oh, Ares tried to do this, and back in the day, the Amazon stopped him with the help of the other gods. Maybe throw in some kind of law where like they can't fight each other or they can't intervene, but kind of like how the Kevin Sorbo series did it, where you had all of the gods and they would do all of their petty bullshit. But let's say like, okay, you can't just fight, you know, Ares can't fight and attack Zeus because he's too strong. So he'll set the stage and mess with mankind and scheme and plan to get other people to try to take out, you know, Zeus by doing some other weird magic method. You know what I'm saying? So in a way he's doing it, but he's not directly doing it. I wish they'd have did it like that, where let's say the gods can't kill each other, but let, you know, he's influencing mankind, and let's say the gods seeing what Ares were trying to do, and let's say they gave the Amazons weapons and stuff to fight Ares, and they took him down, and that's how that was their way of beating Ares to stop him from rising up. Do something like that. I wish they'd have told that a little bit better, rather than just saying, oh, Ares killed all the gods. Because, like, I mean, how you gonna beat Zeus in his thunderbolt? Like, that was like the greatest weapon in Greek, you know, in the Greek pantheon of mythology. Zeus's thunderbolt was absolute. Like, nobody could fuck with him because of that. You know, and it's that I just find it weird that they're just changing it. They also said that, like, Zeus just straight up created mankind. I've seen a few reviewers where, you know, they don't like that idea, but to me, doesn't really matter. I'm not a religious person, so I'm not going in with the mentality, oh, God created everybody. I could give, you know, two fucks about that, but I just wish that they'd have kind of left it open. As a moviegoer, or not a moviegoer, but as a, you know, like somebody who, let's say, would direct something, I would think they would have left it open. I'd have wished that they'd have said, oh, as long as mankind's been alive, there's always been gods that they worship. You know, leave it like that. Don't say that he just created mankind. Just say like, ever since mankind started looking up to the sky and worshiping, there have been gods, and then just have them been, you know, leave it open to interpretation is what I'm trying to say, because that always builds, gets your moviegoer thinking about, you know, all of that kind of sort of stuff. So leave it open. You never want to give them like a definitive yes, no answer. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're making future movies and you may not know what you want to do. So if you leave things open a little bit, you can change things around and everything if need be. Good thing to do in storytelling. But outside of that, the movie was pretty much solid story-wise. You had two bad guys. You had Ares, Dr. Poison, the one other white guy that was from a bunch of movies. I know he was in the Wolverine Origins movie. You had them being bad guys. They were okay. They never really told you a lot of their motivations for doing anything, so they're not like super in-depth and with character arcs, but that's understandable because, like I said, they have to get the movie about there. The movie's about Wonder Woman, not about her bad guys. I think that they should have introduced a different kind of sort of, not necessarily with Ares and Dr. Poison, because Dr. Poison didn't really do anything the whole movie. The other general guy that was running the German army didn't really do a whole lot in the movie, so it wasn't really about him. I think that they should have introduced, you know, what's the chick's name? Cheetah? The Cheetah, I think her name is Cheetah. The one Cheetah chick Wonder Woman always fights in the Justice League cartoons and everything else. I don't know if they're going to bring her in future movies, because as far as I know, probably her and like 3 other people are, you know, Wonder Woman. You know, Wonder Woman doesn't have like a, what do they call it? I want to say anti-hero, but I know that's not the word I'm looking for. God, I'm getting old. I can't think of it. Like, she doesn't have a Joker. She doesn't have a Lex Luthor, so to speak, about her character. She doesn't have a rival that she goes against every, you know, that's like that. So I think Cheetah would probably be the biggest known character. Even Cheetah's probably unknown. People probably don't know who she is. You know, even though she's been in Injustice and the cartoons and things like that, I would like to see, let's say, bring her character in, but maybe they're saving her for future movies. They don't have, Wonder Woman doesn't have, I mean, especially given that World War I time frame, she doesn't have a whole lot of enemies that you can introduce like that. So I guess they had to go with military general guys and things like that. So, as far as Ares goes, though, I think they should have just made Ares the general guy. That whole twist at the end of the movie of, oh, I killed him, but he's not Ares, it was somebody else. I think that was kind of weak. I saw that coming from a mile away. You might as well not even did it. It turns out Ares was the guy who Steve Trevor was talking to earlier in London when they got back, but it's that little, I didn't see it as a twist because it's like you had to see that coming, you know.
No, I don't get that.
Also, I think storytelling wise, I mean, the movie pretty much went beat for beat. There's nothing really I could say that can, you know, I can't jump down the movie's throat about anything story wise. It was pretty much basic storytelling. The CG was off in a couple places. I'm not somebody who cares about CG like that, but to me it looked, you had a couple scenes in there, like you had a lot of slow motion in it. Don't mind it as much because you had Wonder Woman doing some badass fighting in the movie, especially when it came to a lot of CQC and hand to hand and twirling kicks and sliding kicks and things like that. So I don't mind the slow-mo as much, but the CG was off in a couple places. Like when she, I think it was the one scene where she jumped in the window and then landed in like a crouch position. That crouch position was like, it was, you can tell it was CG. I'm not saying that, you know, she really can't do it, but it looked completely fake. That transition from that window shot to landing on the, you know, on the floor was completely just CG it off, and it just looked messed up to me. It looked blurry as hell sometimes, and I can't knock the movie for it, but I always look to other superhero movies, like, you know, like why can't they look as good as some of the Marvel stuff? Because Marvel got that Disney money. And I know WB's not competing with that, so it's like, I mean, it's understandable. Hey, you know, they got to cut corners somewhere. So, but that was only in like a couple spots in the movie. The only really other, I can't really call it a flaw, is the whole Wonder Woman beating Ares at the end. The fight was pretty cool, but it seems like whenever you have big comic book characters or even anime characters on screen, writers always tend to, the fight always devolves into like a telekinesis battle or somebody flying towards each other. Like, in Wonder Woman, they did the same thing, flying around, crashing into each other. The same thing like with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you got Ego and Star-Lord doing the same thing. In Man of Steel, you had Superman and Zod doing it. Batman v Superman, you had Superman and Doomsday doing it. So it's like it always involves into characters ramming each other, or or like in Wonder Woman's case, you had that, and it was like a telekinesis battle of him throwing shit at Wonder Woman and her blocking and dodging it until she magically manifests her powers, you know, outside of Steve Trevor's death, which is off camera. I think that was kind of fucked up how they did him. They just kind of killed him off camera. So unless they're planning to like bring him back in Wonder Woman 2, let's say, oh, instead of dying, he was magically spirited away. And then when she comes back in modern times, like he suddenly gets teleported there or whatever, they bring him back. Killing him, I think that should have been personal. Like he should have like if they were gonna make it the way that they, you know, did, because she like looked up at the plane and the plane blew up, and then that's how she got sad and everything, right? Even though she like just met this dude like 2 days ago. So I would have wanted, if I was the one making it, I think his death should have been more personal. Let's say have her fight Ares, and Ares is just whooping that ass physically, because he, you know, he has these godly abilities and everything. And even though she has godly abilities too, he's been using his since like the dawn of time, so he's well more experienced. So have him just like whoop that ass, and then while she's like laying on the ground, or while he's incapacitating her with something, have Steve Trevor jump in trying to save her and have him kill Steve. And then that would make her mad enough to come at him and then enrage her enough to beat him. I think they should have did it that way rather than just killing him off camera like he was an extra. Wasn't feeling that. Her also getting the godly abilities and stuff, I thought that was kind of quick, because it was just like, oh, I'm mad, now I have all the powers of gods. It's like, no. It would have made more sense if, let's say, as the movie went on, she learned about those abilities and was learning them as the movie went on, you know what I'm saying? It would have made more sense. But for her just to suddenly snap her fingers and get these magical abilities and flight and everything, it's kind of, I felt like that was kind of like an easy win. But I don't really blame the movie for that. I can't jump down and be like, oh, that's a bad movie because of that. I just think that's just writing. That's just how scripts in Hollywood, you know, that's how they do superhero fights. I guess as a medium, they have to evolve into something bigger and better. Marvel does things a little bit differently, but even they still do it, you know, a certain extent when it comes to those really strong characters. So outside of that, though, like I said, the movie was solid. I left out of the theater entertained. Chris Pine killed it as Steve Trevor. He was the likable guy he is in all of his movies. So I don't know Steve Trevor character as much, so I can't say if he played the character like he was supposed to. But for what they did on screen, he was likable. He was him and Wonder Woman had some lovers tension there. They kind of built that up, but it didn't feel forced, and they never really threw it down your throat with it. So it was kind of like that. How would I describe it? Like that, the one chick that you work with, where you kind of have that sexual tension, will you, won't they date kind of sort of thing. You had a lot of that, but they never really just jumped you right on into it and had him have sex with her and all that stuff. Because some movies, they like to do that. They throw that in a situation and it's like, oh, they have a sex scene. This didn't do that, so I thought that was better. It was more tasteful. Normally when you have women leads in movies, or even as when women are like secondary characters, Hollywood has a problem of putting a woman on screen without her having her take her top off, or her having sex with somebody. So I know that's a problem that they got to deal with. So in this movie, they did it kind of tastefully. Maybe that was because they had, I think, a female director directed this movie, so maybe that was the case. If so, I think this was the better choice than have them just be like, oh, just straight lovers ever since she met him, you know. They didn't do that. It was more of like a curiosity leads into caring about somebody than curiosity leading to like lovers and then sex, you know what I'm saying? So I think that was pretty good. But as a movie, like I said, it was solid. I can't say, I can't say much. I think the movie's gonna probably make them tons of money until Spider-Man comes out, and then Spider-Man's gonna probably shit all over Wonder Woman. that's how that's gonna go. I already know. The Wonder Woman could be like the greatest thing on earth right now, but I think they should have came out a few months. If Wonder Woman should have came out around when Guardians came out, because at least with Guardians, you might get a lot of people who went to go see Guardians may have went to go see Wonder Woman. But by it coming, because I think Spider-Man comes out within like 1 or 2 weeks. I could be wrong about that, but I know it's coming in like the next few weeks, and I know once it drops, the Wonder Woman's long-term ongoing sales are going to definitely suffer when that comes out. So, all right, let me stop rambling on about Diana Prince here. So, we're going to be talking about some other gaming-related stuff here. FarCry 5. Let me just get this right out the gate. I'm a huge fan of the FarCry series. And for those of you who don't know, FarCry has been a series well before FarCry, what was it, FarCry 3, that they introduced all this open world bullshit. And I was a fan of the older FarCry games. FarCry 1, way back in the day on PC. Matter of fact, I still got it. And FarCry 2, the one that was in Africa, and you were the mercenary running around, setting bushfires and stuff, dealing with malaria. And I think you had Far Cry Instincts, the one where you got like primal based superpowers. I love that one. I love just like clawing people's faces and doing super jumps on people. And but with this new Far Cry game that they're coming out, it's gonna be, I'm guessing it's gonna be more in line with the newer ones like Far Cry 3, 4, and 5, where it's, typically one guy put in an open world environment and you got to run around doing towers and whatever the story quest is, fighting mercenaries, things like that. With this new one, I'm probably gonna pick it up and play it, only because of the controversy behind it. I played Far Cry 3. Far Cry 4, I didn't really play. I have it. I played it for like 6 hours. The story never really gripped me, so I didn't really play it. Far Cry Primal, I didn't even touch. That was just something I didn't like. I was like, you have a game where you're a mercenary running around killing people with guns. Now you're back in time being a caveman and you're fighting against people and they don't have no technology. I was like, I didn't even play that game. I think I may have I seen like a couple reviews and I think I played the demo of it, so I got like the first intro part of it, but that's it. Like I didn't even touch that game really. But with this new one, I'm probably gonna pick it up. But people are ever since they came out with I guess the announcement trailer of it, people are starting a petition against Far Cry 5. And I guess, I don't know what it is with people, but people get so butthurt over the dumbest shit. And as an intellectual person, it makes me wonder, like, why can't you just accept something for what it is? Like, there wasn't no controversy around any of the other Far Cry games. So why is there controversy around this one? Is it just because it's middle America? Is it just because it's Americans? Because that's what I feel it is. I feel like it's middle American, maybe Christian white people who don't like the game because they don't even know what the game's going to be about. But yet they see the trailer and it looks like the bad guys are either a cult, like or a what do they call those people? Homegrown militia. It looks like they're like, you know, either like a militia group, and I know that's big in like middle America, things like that, people who don't like the government. Or it looks like they're like a Christian cult that somebody has popped up and they don't like the fact that you're killing like religious, you know, Christians and things like that. And it's just one of those things where it's like, why not? I'm just saying, in media, in every form of media, I don't care what it is, books, movies, TV shows, hell, even fucking comic books, they do the same fucking shit. Whenever you have a certain race of people, it's really racism is what it is. But anytime you have a race of people, anytime that race of people, for whatever reason, fears another group of people, that other group of people are going to be vilified in their media. Prime example. In Iron Man comic books, take Iron Man for example. Back in the day, when they made his comics, way back in the day in like the 1950s, I think it was, you had the Vietnam War and Southeast Asia were the bad guys. So the people who, you know, put the shrapnel in his chest and attacked him and things like that back in the day in the comic books were Southeast Asian terrorists, right? Modern day comes out. You have the Iron Man movie come out in 2008 or 2007, whenever that movie came out. I think it was 2008 though. But the movies in that, oh, now they're Middle Eastern terrorists since they're the bad guys. In movies, back in the day, Westerns, you had Indians being the bad guys. It was Native Americans, you know, and then it became Indians at one point, you know, regular Indians. And then, you know, black people, we never got vilified because we get vilified in real life. So in a movie, we got made fun of. We didn't really become the threat, you know, that I think in movies. But it goes around, you know, and sometimes it's the Chinese people. It's been the Russians for like ever since the Cold War. So it's nothing new to society. I don't know why people are like, oh man, this is wrong, it's controversy. Yeah, it's wrong, but that's media. You have to make a story. That's video games. That's life. You know, you're not going to go around not vilifying somebody because everybody vilifies somebody. And you can't make a game or a movie or a book or whatever without having, you know, somebody be your bad guy. I mean, when is this shit going to stop? Is it going to be when we're all like, you know, when we're all fucking like black skinned or caramel skinned people in the world? You know, it's nothing you really got to come up in arms about. I hate this this culture that America seems to have in the modern day, where it's just people are pussies. I mean, sorry for me for being so blunt and so vulgar, but it's the only word or the only way I can get across, you know, my feelings as far as how I think about it, and it's just people are pussies. Like even comedians can tell a joke. And people will get so offended and stuff. It's like, it's just a joke. Yeah, it's edgy material. But just like anything else, edgy stuff sells. Sex sells. So you can't tailor make your content to be John Q. everybody PC politically correct bullshit. You can't do it. Because then you're not going to be as funny. You're going to be holding yourself back. So you have to, as creative content people, you have to think of ways to get certain themes and certain things to come across to, you know, your viewer, your audience, whatever. And it's just them choosing to make, you know, middle America be, you know, the bad guys of a Far Cry game. I'm like, okay, so what? You know, what about everybody else we shoot in the face when we play video games, you know? It's nothing new. I mean, it's not gonna mean anything at the end of the day. This is just a video game that's coming out. So it's like, come on. But people in today's modern age, for whatever reason, they get like super butthurt and they can't deal with, you know, certain situations or certain issues, and it just doesn't make sense to me, YouTube. It really doesn't. I've always been an open-minded person. I can understand, even in real life, if somebody was vilifying somebody else, yeah, I would jump down their throat about it. But that's if it was coming from a place of hate. If I was watching a movie, and let's say the movie was about slavery, and you had white people enslaving black people and whipping black people. Yeah, I hate that being a black person, but I'm not gonna look at the movie and be like, no, it's wrong for them to do that on screen because it's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong. That's the point. That's what it's meant to show you as a viewer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hated the fuck out of Roots back in the day. For those of you who don't know, Roots was a TV show made off of a book about black slavery. Maybe showing my age with that one, but I remember having the book back in the day. But anyway, I hated the hell out of that, watching that, you know, that TV series back in the day in the 80s. But I don't look at it and be like, oh, they shouldn't have made it because of that. Because the moment you censor media, guess what? They're going to be censoring every damn thing. And then, you know, anything edgy or whatever isn't going to be shown to you. And everybody's going to live in like their own perfect little bubble and not be people. They're not going to be themselves. I would hate to live in that world. But anyways, next topic here. We're going to be talking about some E3 stuff. Yeah, let me talk about this first. Bethesda is rumored to have a space open world RPG coming out. And they haven't really announced anything as far as I know. This is just a rumor saying that they're supposedly making an open world space RPG. And as somebody who loves Bethesda games, and as somebody who loves RPGs, and as somebody who loves sci-fi, I would say I would love this kind of sort of thing. But just me personally, Bethesda is starting to lose me as a patron, I should say. Only because I wasn't really that big of a fan of Fallout 4. To be honest, I loved FarCry 3. Ugh, damn, getting my topics mixed up. I've loved Fallout 3. And actually all the Fallout games, and New Vegas going all the way back to Fallout 1. Even the weird spin-offs like the one they made for the Xbox, the original Xbox. But I wasn't really a big fan of Fallout 4. And when they also made the Elder Scrolls, the jump from Oblivion to Skyrim, I wasn't a fan of that either. It seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like to me they're doing the same thing that BioWare did with their franchises, Dragon Age and Mass Effect. And what I mean by that is, when BioWare came out with Mass Effect and Dragon Age, they both had their first games. They were two completely different styles, not styles of games, but two completely different mechanically shown games. What I mean by that is how the game played. They were two different things. When Mass Effect 2 came out and when Dragon Age 2 came out, they had the same mentality behind making both games. And it was probably because it was made by the same teams of people. And Mass Effect and how it was more linear, less open, more action driven. You know, Dragon Age 2 was the same way. It was more linear. You're stuck in Kirkwall. It was more action driven with the combat. And then, just like with Mass Effect, not Mass Effect per se, not Mass Effect 3, but let's say Dragon Age Inquisition. Open world, less character driven, it felt more generic. It was bigger and better, but it felt more generic. With the new Mass Effect Andromeda, same way. Feels incredibly generic, but the world is bigger, combat is more casual. So they're taking the same mentality between making those franchises. And Bethesda does the same thing. Like when they came out with Skyrim, they saw how well Skyrim was received. So what did they do when they made Fallout 4? It's just Skyrim with a Fallout theme on it. You know, they changed up how they did dialogue, which I hate. But it was the same type of game. Similar quests. The world wasn't as involved as it used to be. You have world bosses around that'll just pop up out of random, just like Skyrim did with the dragons that you had to fight. So they're taking the same mentality towards two different franchises. And since I love Skyrim for what it is, don't get me wrong, I love Skyrim. But as a hardcore gamer myself, Skyrim was incredibly casual. And even if I had to compare Skyrim to, let's say, Oblivion, I love Oblivion a hell of a lot more than Skyrim because of a lot of things that it did. They changed up their formula in between those games, And they did the same thing with Fallout. When they went from Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, they changed up how they did things and made it more casual. Not a fan of that. So that's why when it says, you know, that they're coming out with this space open world RPG, I'm excited because I like all three of the things that they're coming out with. You know, I like space, I like RPGs, I like open world games, but I'm not a fan of their current mindset as far as how they choose to make their open world games, if that makes sense. And it's just, so that's why I can't say I'm like super excited for it, because it's like I know it's gonna be a space open world, you know, open world RPG, but it's gonna have like the Fallout 4 / Skyrim formula to it. And I'm just not a fan of that. I'm probably gonna pick it up and play it, but I'm not a fan of how they do things. They're probably dumbing down their franchises, just like BioWare did theirs, because it appeals to more a not a majority audience, a bigger audience, and that's how they make their money. That's how they make more money than what they would if they pigeonholed their, you know, their franchises into certain genres. So I can understand why they do it from a company standpoint. It's just, for me personally, that's not my taste. But for those, if you love Fallout 4 and you love Skyrim and how those games played, then if this space open world RPG is just like it, then you'll probably love that game too. From a company standpoint, they seem to stick with what they know. And if you're a fan of their games, recent games, then you'll probably be more than a fan of this one, this new one. So I can't see them doing anything. You know, they're not going to do a 180 and do something completely different. So I don't know what they're making, but it's probably going to be in the same vein as their recent games. So, all right. And for the last topic here, we're going to be talking about E3. And this E3 is going to be weird. It's going to be super weird. I'm interested to see what Microsoft is going to bring to the table. And the only reason I say that is because I don't think they have a whole lot. The only thing that I keep hearing from Microsoft and Phil Spencer and all of this shit is just they're talking about the Xbox Scorpio. How much bigger and better is it going to be? How much is it going to cost? And things like that. And it's just one of those things where you got E3 coming out, and I just don't think they don't got the games. I know I keep saying it every time I talk about the Xbox Scorpio. It's just one of those situations where they don't have any games for it, YouTube. Like, you can have, and I know I keep saying this, you can have the biggest and the best console in the room. But if that console is made to play video games and you don't have no games for it, it's not gonna sell. Unless it does something that's completely different than your competition. And what I mean by that is, let's say like when the 360? I think, yeah, when the 360 came out, you had an HD DVD drive in there, right? When PlayStation 3 came out, you had Blu-ray. Back in the day, when those two things were competing against each other, people didn't know which way to go. You know what I'm saying? Younger gamers may not even remember this, because I know this is like, you know, I'm probably pushing 10 to 15 years old when it comes to talking about this, you know, talking about these consoles. But you had to make a choice between the two. That was back then when the Xbox or Microsoft rather, when Microsoft had a means to fight PlayStation. And what I mean by that is they had their own format, that whole HD DVD format. They decided to back that as a company, and that's why you had it in the 360. Sony created the Blu-ray format. They didn't know which way the DVD market was going to go, because back then when you bought a movie, it came out on Blu-ray and on HD DVD. Some of the movie companies got on board, and then, you know, Sony made deals with them, so that's why movies now just come out on Blu-ray. There is no competition. Sony had the PlayStation, had Blu-ray built in, so that sold. So when I mean unless it does something extra, that's what I mean. The Xbox Scorpio doesn't do anything extra. It doesn't bring anything else to the table besides just better hardware and, oh yeah, it plays Xbox One games. Or at least I think it has backwards compatibility, but you know, it plays games and that's it. You know, it doesn't do anything new, but you know, that you can't get elsewhere, and that's the problem. So you can't just come out with a console and be like, oh, this does bigger and better graphics, it does 4K, it runs games faster, and that's it. Because what are you going to play on it? You're playing the same games that your competition has. So, I mean, unless they're dropping, and which I highly doubt, but unless they're coming to E3 with like, look, we got like these new IP games coming out, we got this game, we got that game, we got this new game that's about to drop this year. You know, they need the games. They have to show off. They have to come to the table as if they're like a political guy running for office. Like, look what Sony doing. Fuck them. We got this shit because you know our console is the shit. That's what they got to do. They got to come to the table with product. You know, you know, it's like I'm not into drugs, but I'm just saying, like, if you you got to come to the drug deal with the money and the other guy got to come with the product. You gotta do something, and you can't just come there and be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm good for it, right? So can you give me the drugs without me paying you? Like, no, you have to have both. And with Xbox, they have to come to the table with games to go along with the Scorpio. Otherwise, yeah, people are gonna buy it. Like, some people may buy it to get an upgrade. But then, you know, what are you playing on it? You know, you're playing the same games that the Xbox One already has and that PlayStation got 9 times out of 10. Because they don't have no new exclusives. They don't have no new games down the pipeline that they can easily just pump out. Besides, they got like a few games that they keep mentioning, like Crackdown, State of Decay, and a couple of other ones. But none of those are system sellers. None of those are AAA development games that's going to be like, you know what? We got the biggest dick in the room. None of those games do that. So it's just, they have to do something. They need games. This year, I think, I mean, I don't know what they're bringing to the table. I'm hoping they have some surprises for us. But I just don't see it. As a consumer and as somebody who follows a lot of, you know, the gaming media and stuff, I just have a feeling they're going to come to the table and be talking all about Scorpio. And meanwhile, PlayStation, you know, they're going to have the exclusives. They have the market. I just remember seeing an article where Sony sold like what, 60 million PlayStation 4 units since 2013. So they have the market by a huge lead. Sony can come to the table and be like, we have nothing. And people, you know, at Xbox could come out with like the best stuff this year and Sony would still win. That's the problem. Microsoft has to come to the table with something that bitch slaps Sony to get people to buy the Scorpio and to invest back in the Xbox brand. Because right now, their brand in comparison to popular opinion is shit. I mean, it's sad to say. That's from a consumer standpoint with the people, because you got more people switching to PlayStation because that owns the market. Everybody has a PlayStation. Like everybody probably got PlayStations. It reminds me of how you have how the PlayStation 2 was in comparison to the Xbox. Microsoft just came out with the original Xbox. Some people had it, you know, like if you had, you know, like if you were a Halo fan, you had it and things like that. But everybody and their mother had a PlayStation 2. You know, that's what this generation reminds me of. Where now like, everybody got PlayStations, and now Xbox and Microsoft are back to being the minority. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with the 360, they was running shit. And even nowadays, it's like even the game developers are putting their DLCs and their expansions, and they're making deals with Sony because they're they own the market, so they're trying to get all of their stuff out on there. So that cuts out any of the side stuff that might push consoles and might push hardware, because there's a lot of people who buy Xboxes and stuff like that based on the DLC and the content that follows the games they play. Like I know a bunch of people for like Call of Duty. When Call of Duty on 360 would get the maps like a month or something before PlayStation, people would buy Xbox consoles just specifically to play the maps when they dropped on Xbox versus on PlayStation. They didn't feel like wanting to wait for it. So, but by all that being on PlayStation now, Microsoft doesn't have a reason to give people to come over back to Xbox. It's sad to see, but they are reaping the consequences of the choices that they made with this market generation thing that they got going on. I remember probably 2 to 3 years before the Xbox One came out, right? and they had a document leak on the internet, and it broke down their entire marketing plan leading up to the Xbox One. And I actually still got it on my computer, and it broke you down like what they were going to do as a company. It was like a PowerPoint type slide presentation of what their direction for the next 5 years was going to be. And I'll be god damned if that shit wasn't right, because on there it led into them talking about how the Xbox One, they wanted to market it as a media device for your home that attaches to everything. It broke down all of that stuff, and I'll be damned if when they came out and announced the Xbox One, that's what they were doing. And that's what I think the problem was. I don't think it's a problem with Phil Spencer or the Xbox team themselves, honestly. This was probably a decision by Microsoft. And down the gate, for whatever reason, they were trying to, as a company, they were like, you know what? This is how things are going to be. We are moving in this direction. And what I think is the Xbox people had to be like, okay, well, we're doing this as a company, so we got to do it. And they got stuck into that way of thinking. What got Microsoft into thinking like that? I don't know. Maybe they had their analysts told them something, and maybe they thought the industry was just going to jump on to a lot of the things they were selling. But that wasn't the case. And I think now with Phil Spencer coming in there, because I think they had another guy in there before, when he came in, Phil Spencer is saying some decent stuff. I like him as the Xbox guy, but I think he's reaping the repercussions of Microsoft's decisions early on with the Xbox One. And now they're like stuck in that #2 spot, and they got to come up, you know, they got to work their way back up to that #1. And the sad thing about it is, like I keep saying, without games, without top selling games, they're not going to do that. They need a system seller. Halo is not going to do it anymore. You know what I'm saying? They need something to come to the table and be like, Sony has God of War, The Last of Us, all of these other unique exclusives. They need something to come to the table. You have to fight fire with fire. You know, they need a new franchise that people can get behind. And it's probably going to take them probably 2 to 4 years to bring it back up. Because right now, all of their games in development that I keep hearing about over and over and over again, I just don't see it. None of those games are going to do it. They have to come out with a new IP, or either spin off Halo, do something. They got to make some kind of another game. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Not necessarily like a direct Halo game, like Halo 6 or whatever. I think that's kind of dead in the water. What they need to do is make a spin-off of Halo. Let's say like if you make an ODST based game. I know they made Halo ODST. That was an expansion. I'm not talking about that bullshit for Halo 3. But they need to come out with a game that has the Halo's branding name on it. That, let's say, make a Halo ODST game, and let's say instead of having Spartans and all of that extra shit in it, have it be about the UNSC soldiers or like ODSTs, and make it more like a modern day shooter. Meaning something that's similar to Call of Duty or maybe Battlefield, that can bring in that audience to play this newer franchise game. And then have that be your AAA game that you put a lot of money into, and then have that be your competition. You compete with COD and Battlefield, and have this game only be on Xbox. You know what I'm saying? That would do it. That would drive people to play whatever that new game is if it was good and if it could get the, you know, the momentum going. They need to come out with something, or come out with something like Overwatch, you know, do something like that, and then take some of their, you know, audience, because those games are popular now. Like you got Overwatch and those other couple spin-off games that are kind of sort of just like Overwatch, but you know, those I forget what that genre is called, but you have something like that. Or they need to come out with something like damn, what's those games called? The MOBAs, you know, have like a MOBA, you know, put fucking League of Legends on fucking Xbox and have it only be on Xbox. You know, and then, you know, have it somehow where you can link it to your League of Legends account on PC, so to drive in people who like MOBAs onto your console. They got to do something as a company. They got to make moves. That's what I'm saying. As an American-made company, they got to come to the table with stacks of money and make moves happen. They got to, you know, pull some weight, you know, so to speak. And until they do that, you can have the greatest hardware in the world, like I keep saying, but it's not going to sell. You're not going to take down Sony and their 60 million consoles with the Xbox Scorpio. No matter how much the Xbox fanboys may want to believe it, it's not going to happen. because right now in most households right now, I just remember reading another article, people have PlayStations and the Switches. They don't have Xbox. Sad to say, but that's just the way it is, YouTube. But anyways, let me end this video here. I know we're pushing 50 minutes, so I'm like 5 or 10 minutes shorter than what I normally go on. But if you guys want me to talk about anything specific, or either in the comments or maybe in the next Lalelu podcast video, just let me know down in the comments below. I mean, I don't mind having debates. Hell, if you wanted to come on for the next episode and we could debate something back and forth, I don't mind doing that either. But let me know down in the comments. My name is Denonu, the man with black privilege, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.